It always starts softly, so softly that we often miss it, like the hush of leaves brushing against each other in the breeze, or the moment the sky begins to pale before dawn. Awakening isn't the thunderclap people sometimes imagine. It doesn't demand your attention with bright lights or loud voices. No, it's far more tender than that. It's a subtle stirring from within, the kind that gently knocks on the door of your heart and waits patiently for you to hear it. Maybe it happens on an ordinary afternoon when the world feels like it's moving too fast and you suddenly stop. You look around at the blur of things, tasks, noise, conversations that don't really touch you, and for a moment you feel something shift, a quiet sadness, a longing, a strange recognition that though everything seems fine on the outside, something deep within is aching to be seen. That feeling, small but persistent, is the beginning. That's the whisper. You might not know what it means at first. It doesn't come with clear instructions or grand epiphanies. It doesn't shout, "Wake up," in the middle of your day. It simply lingers, like a scent from childhood that you can't place but can't forget either. It follows you into the night, into your dreams, into those moments when you lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering why the ache won't leave. Some nights, it feels like loneliness. Other nights, it feels like an invisible hand reaching out, not to pull you away, but to lead you back to something, to somewhere, to a part of yourself you might have buried beneath expectations, fears, or the endless pursuit of doing more, being more. That whisper doesn't want you to become someone else. It wants you to remember, to return. And it's not easy, is it? To admit that despite all you've achieved, something still feels incomplete. That beneath the laughter and the routines, there's a quiet yearning you can't name. The world tells you to keep going, to be strong, to stay busy. But the whisper inside you is asking something different. It's asking you to pause, to feel, to listen. There's no map for this, no timeline. Some people spend years ignoring the whisper, mistaking it for weakness or confusion. Others hush it with distractions, fearing what might surface if they let it speak. But the whisper doesn't go away. It's the most patient presence in your life. It waits through your highs and lows, through your silence and resistance, through all the times you thought you were lost. And when you're finally still enough to hear it clearly, it doesn't say you're broken. It says, "You're here. I've missed you." You see, awakening isn't about becoming someone new. It's about softening into who you already are. It's about unpeeling the layers you've built up, the masks, the roles, the armor, and finding beneath them all a self that has always been whole, always been worthy, always been waiting for you to come home. And home doesn't look like a perfect place. It looks like you, sitting quietly in the dark, finally breathing without effort. It looks like the tears you let fall without needing to explain them. It looks like the moment you stop running, not because you've given up, but because you finally remembered that there's nowhere else you need to go. This journey doesn't start with answers. It begins with the courage to ask different questions. Not the kind the world trains you to ask, like, "What should I do?" or "How can I fix this?" But softer questions. What hurts? What part of me have I forgotten? What do I need to feel safe enough to open? And no, it won't all make sense right away. Sometimes, it will feel like walking through fog with no clear path ahead. But even in the haze, there will be small signs, moments of unexpected clarity, flashes of peace, words that find you at the right time. They're not coincidences. They're your soul's way of reminding you that you're not lost. You're being called. And tonight, maybe you feel it again. That whisper, low and steady, nudging at the edges of your awareness. It doesn't need you to have it all figured out. It just wants you to say yes, to rest, to soften, to let yourself be held by the truth that awakening is not a destination. It's a gentle unfolding. A return to yourself, one breath at a time. So close your eyes if you haven't already. Let the noise of the day fall away. Let the softness of this moment wrap around you like a warm blanket. You don't need to chase anything right now. You don't need to be anyone other than exactly who you are. The whisper is here. It has always been here, and tonight it speaks to you again, not with urgency, but with love. You are not lost. You are simply remembering your way back. Sleep well, dear soul. You're on your way home. Last night, you heard the whisper, That tender voice from within, the one that doesn't speak in demands, but in invitations. It found you in the quiet and sat beside you like an old friend. And maybe, just maybe, for the first time in a long time, you didn't push it away. But now you find yourself wondering, what happens next? Where do I go from here? It's easy, in this soft but unfamiliar space, to feel like you're floating alone. Like you've stepped away from everything that once made sense, only to find yourself in a space with no guide, no clear direction. The world you used to live in, with its deadlines and definitions and expectations, feels strangely distant. And this new inner world you're entering feels vast, mysterious, and sometimes achingly quiet. But if there's one thing I want to tell you tonight, something I hope you carry into your dreams and into your days, it's this: you are not alone on this journey. Even when it feels like no one else understands. Even when you try to explain what you're feeling and the words fall short. Even when you walk into rooms full of people but feel like your soul is still waiting outside. You are not alone. There are others, more than you can imagine, who are walking a path much like yours. Some of them are just a few steps ahead, their lanterns casting light on the trail you're beginning to see. Others are still back where you once stood, just beginning to feel the stirrings of something more. And then there are those walking right beside you, quiet and unseen, but deeply connected. You may not meet them in your day-to-day life. They might not sit at your table or speak the language of your waking world, but they exist. Across oceans and timelines, across silent nights and sleepless mornings, they're feeling the same pull, the same ache to remember who they really are. And somewhere deep within, your soul knows this. That's why, even when you feel alone, there's a small flicker of warmth that doesn't die out. It's connection, not to names or faces, but to something older, something ancient and eternal. The invisible thread that binds all of us who have chosen to wake up, to come home to ourselves, even if we don't yet know what that home looks like. You see, this isn't a solitary path. It only feels that way when you're learning how to see through different eyes, when you're peeling back the layers and everything feels raw and new. But this path, this beautiful, winding, sometimes painful journey, is woven with others. Souls who are learning, just like you, to listen again, to feel again, to trust the quiet voice within. And sometimes when you least expect it, the universe sends you reminders. A line from a book that feels like it was written just for you. A stranger's glance that lingers with unexpected warmth. A moment of stillness when the wind brushes your face and for a brief second, you remember something without needing to name it. Those are not accidents. They are the gentle nudges, the soul's way of saying, keep going. Others are walking too. Tonight, if your heart feels heavy, let it rest in this truth. There is no shame in feeling lost. There is no failure in not having it all figured out. The journey inward isn't a straight road, it's a spiral. You'll circle back to places you thought you left behind, only to see them with new eyes. You'll shed pieces of yourself that once felt permanent, and in their place, you'll grow something softer, truer. And every time you fall apart, every time you sit in the quiet with nothing but your breath and your questions, remember, there are others doing the same. In other cities, in other corners of the night. Right now, someone else is lying awake, heart cracked open, hearing the same whisper you did. You are connected, even in your silence. If you close your eyes for a moment and truly listen, not with your ears, but with your spirit, you might feel them. You might sense a presence, like someone reaching out without touch, holding space for you without ever having met you. That is the beauty of this path. We don't need to walk hand in hand to walk together. So tonight, let yourself rest in that. Let yourself soften into the comfort of knowing that you are surrounded by unseen companionship, that your journey matters, not only to you, but to the collective unfolding of something sacred. And in time, you'll find your kindred spirits, not always when you expect, not always where you look, but always when your soul is ready. They will come, not to fix you, but to remind you of what you already carry. They will speak a language that feels like home. They will meet you where you are. Until then, trust the invisible. Trust that every tear you shed is understood. That every moment you choose presence over numbness is echoed by someone else's silent victory. You are never alone, not in your questions, not in your fears, not in your becoming. The night holds you. The universe hears you, and this whisper you've begun to follow. It's leading you to others who've heard it too. Sleep, dear soul. Let this truth settle into your bones. You are not walking in darkness. You are walking together, each of you with your own candle, lighting the way not just for yourself but for one another. You are not alone. You never were, and you never will be. Sweet dreams. Come closer tonight. Not to me, but to yourself. Come sit beside that quiet corner within, the one you've been walking past day after day without realizing it was calling your name. You know the place I'm talking about. It's the soft hum beneath all the noise, the subtle ache that's been waiting so patiently for your attention. Not demanding, not loud, just there. Maybe it's been years since you truly listened. Maybe you've grown so used to the external world, so pulled into its rhythm and expectations, that you've forgotten there's an entire universe quietly pulsing beneath your skin. It never blamed you for leaving. It just waited. Like a small light behind a closed door, never going out, only dimming itself so as not to disturb you while you were surviving. But tonight, while the rest of the world is sleeping and the shadows soften the walls, can you feel it? That small voice. Not the voice of reason or logic or to-do lists. Not the one that tells you to try harder or do more. I'm talking about the voice that lives beneath all of that. The one that speaks in sighs and stillness, in the hush between heartbeats. It's the part of you that remembers the feeling of being whole, even if your mind has forgotten. The part that holds your softness when you've hardened. The part that cries for no reason, that laughs at the wind, that dreams when you no longer believe in dreaming. The part that doesn't want anything from you, except to be heard. There's a kind of magic in listening to yourself again. Not the self the world shaped, but the self that came before. Before the stories, before the scars, before you learned how to silence yourself just to be loved or to be enough, or to simply get through the day. You see, there's a child inside you still. Not childish, just tender, just real. And that child remembers what it's like to feel everything fully, to ask questions without fear, to cry without shame. That child is not weak. That child is sacred, and they have things to say. When was the last time you asked yourself what you truly need? Not what's expected, not what's practical, but what your heart aches for in the quiet. Have you noticed how often we speak to everyone else, explain ourselves to everyone else, but forget to ask the one voice that matters most? It can be hard to listen at first. There's so much noise, isn't there? Thoughts rushing like traffic, regrets knocking on the door, worries pacing in circles. But beneath all of it, there is stillness. And in that stillness, there is a whisper. You don't need to force it. You don't need to be anything special to hear it. You only need to become quiet enough, tender enough, brave enough to turn inward. That corner inside you, it remembers every version of you. The one who broke and didn't say a word. The one who tried so hard to be perfect. The one who wanted to scream but smiled instead. The one who hoped against hope. And the one who's just now finally starting to wonder if there's something more. It holds them all, not with judgment, but with love. That's what makes this part of you so beautiful. It doesn't need you to be healed before it welcomes you back. It only asks that you come as you are. Sometimes when you listen, it might speak in feelings before words. A lump in your throat, a tightening in your chest, a tear without explanation. Let it. That is your soul stretching, releasing, waking up. Those are not signs of weakness. They are proof that you're alive in places you thought had gone numb. Tonight, give yourself permission to sit in that space without needing to fix anything. Don't rush to interpret. Don't try to make it productive. Just be. Let that quiet corner be a refuge, not another task. And if you're afraid of what you might hear, that's okay too. You're not alone in that fear. Sometimes the voice within speaks truths we've buried, truths about what we've lost, what we've compromised, what we still secretly long for. But those truths don't come to hurt you. They come to set you free. What would happen if you began listening to yourself the way you wish others would listen to you? Not with impatience or interruption, but with wonder, with tenderness, with love. The world will try to convince you that being strong means never breaking, that being wise means never doubting. But your soul knows different. It knows that strength is in softness, and wisdom often wears the face of vulnerability. You don't need to have the answers tonight. You don't need to make any big decisions. All you need is to say yes to yourself, to the quiet invitation that's always been there, waiting beneath your busy thoughts and tired smiles. Let yourself feel seen, not by anyone else, but by the one who has always been with you. Let yourself be heard, not through loud declarations, but through gentle noticing. A pause, a breath, a soft whispered, "I'm here, I hear you." Because that small, quiet part of you, the one you've kept in the shadows, it holds treasures you've forgotten, dreams you thought were lost, pieces of your soul that are still golden, still untouched by the world's noise. And when you make space for that voice, something begins to shift. Not dramatically, not all at once, but like the sky before sunrise. A slow, soft blooming of light you almost didn't notice until you looked up and realized the dark was gone. So listen tonight. Not to me, not to the world, but to that quiet corner inside you. It's been waiting for this moment, not to be saved, but to be seen, not to be changed, but to be loved. And as you drift into sleep, let those inner words wrap around you like a lullaby only your soul can hear. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are returning to yourself. Good night, gentle soul. May you hear the voice within more clearly with every dream. Stay with me a little longer tonight. The world is quiet now, and the shadows have stretched themselves across your walls like old friends settling in for the night. There's a hush in the air, soft and velvet-like, inviting you to breathe a little slower, to rest your thoughts against something deeper. You've made it this far into yourself, into this journey of remembering and listening. And now, perhaps, it's time to sit gently with the part we've often been taught to avoid, the dark. Darkness. Even the word carries a certain weight, doesn't it? It's been painted for us as something to fear, something unknown, a place where monsters lurk and sadness hides. Since we were children, we've been told to reach for the light, to run from the shadows, to be brave by keeping the dark at bay. But what if I told you that the darkness was never here to hurt you? What if I told you that darkness is not an enemy, but a doorway? You see, we often think of light as the answer to everything. We chase it like a solution, a fix, a reward for surviving the storm. But in that chase, we forget that seeds do not bloom in sunlight alone. They begin in the soil, buried in blackness, unseen and silent. And yet, that's where life begins, beneath the surface, in places no one can see, where it's just you and the unknown. That quiet corner inside you we talked about before. It lives within the dark. Not a frightening dark, but a nurturing one. The kind of dark that wraps you in stillness, the kind that asks you to stop running, to stop pretending, to stop shining just so others won't worry. This darkness doesn't judge your tiredness. It doesn't demand a smile. It simply welcomes you exactly as you are, even in your most fragile state. Maybe you've avoided sitting with your own shadows because you thought they meant you were broken. Maybe you believed that if you looked too closely, you'd find something unlovable. But the truth is, the parts of you hidden in the dark are not shameful. They're simply waiting for your hand, your breath, your presence. There is grief in the dark, yes, and pain, and anger you were never allowed to express. But there is also truth, and there is softness. And when you stop resisting, stop trying to force the light back on too quickly, you might start to feel something unexpected, relief. Because the darkness doesn't ask you to perform. It doesn't require answers. It only asks for honesty. Close your eyes with me now, just for a moment. Can you feel the way the darkness holds you? Not as a threat, but as a cocoon? It's not here to swallow you. It's here to soften the noise, to return you to your own heartbeat, to help you see, not with your eyes, but with your soul. So many of us are afraid of what we'll find if we turn inward when the world is silent. We're afraid of the weight we've carried, the memories we've buried, the longings we've silenced. But the darkness already knows them. It has held them for you, patiently until you were ready to come home. And here you are, not to fix, not to escape, but to feel. Maybe tonight is the first time you've allowed yourself to stop pretending you're okay. Maybe this is the night the tears come, not from sadness, but from relief. Because there's something profoundly healing about being with yourself in the dark and realizing you are still here. Even when it hurt, you stayed. Even when it felt impossible, something in you kept breathing. That strength, that resilience, it was forged in the darkness. It bloomed in the absence of applause. It grew without needing to be seen. You don't need to be afraid of your shadow. It's not separate from you. It is you, misunderstood, neglected, but still longing to belong. And when you stop running from it, when you turn toward it with compassion instead of fear, something incredible happens. You begin to recognize your own wholeness. Not a perfect wholeness, not a finished one, but a beautiful, raw, evolving wholeness that includes every moment, even the ones you'd rather forget. Especially those. Because those moments, those nights when you felt alone or confused or cracked open, they weren't the end of you. They were the beginning of something softer. There's a quiet kind of power in sitting with the parts of yourself you've hidden. A sacredness in saying, I see you, to your fear, your doubt, your longing. The darkness doesn't disappear when you do that. But it does change. It becomes a companion instead of a cage. Tonight, let it be your companion. Let the shadows on your ceiling remind you of the galaxies within. Let the silence around you echo the wisdom you've carried all along. Let yourself rest in the knowing that darkness is not the opposite of light. It is its cradle. And if you feel uncertain, that's okay. If you feel vulnerable, that's a gift. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is the doorway to real connection, with others and with yourself. So breathe. Let your breath be an anchor in this ocean of quiet. Let the darkness wash over you, not to drown you, but to remind you. You don't need to have all the answers tonight. You don't need to be anyone other than who you are in this moment. You are enough here. In the stillness, in the dark, in the truth of your unspoken feelings, the night will hold you as you hold yourself. And slowly, gently, the fear will loosen its grip. Not because it vanished, but because you met it, you welcomed it, and you stayed. As you drift into sleep, I hope you feel this. You are not broken, you are unfolding. And in this darkness, you are not lost. You are finding your way back to the light that was never outside of you. It was always here, quiet, patient, waiting. Good night, dear soul. May this darkness wrap you in peace, and may your dreams carry you closer to the love that's always lived within. You're still here, and I'm so glad you are. The night has grown deeper now. The silence feels softer, as if it's learning to breathe alongside you. Maybe your eyes are closed already, or maybe you're still awake, listening in that gentle space between thought and sleep. Either way, you're not alone. I'm right here, and so is this moment that asks for nothing but honesty, nothing but presence. After all the stillness, after the long embrace with your shadows, maybe something else is beginning to stir inside you. Not a loud shift, not a rush of clarity, but a whisper, a quiet curiosity. What happens when we stop holding on so tightly? You see, we often carry more than we realize. We grip memories, identities, expectations, mistakes, and versions of ourselves we no longer are. We hold on because we think it's safer, because we think letting go means we've lost something. But maybe tonight, we can see things a little differently. What if letting go isn't about losing, but about lightening? It's like this. Imagine your heart as a room. Over the years, you've filled it with stories, with people, with hopes, regrets, fears. Some of them brought you joy, some taught you lessons, some you kept just because you didn't know where else to put them. And slowly, almost without noticing, the room became crowded. There's barely space to move. And yet, you stay. Because everything in it has meant something. Because you're afraid that if you take anything out, you'll somehow be emptier. But what if the opposite is true? What if the space that opens up when you release is not emptiness, but possibility? Letting go is not forgetting. It's not denial. It's not about pretending it didn't matter. It's about choosing to loosen your grip on what no longer serves the journey forward. It's about trusting that some things, even beautiful things, are meant to be held only for a while. You are allowed to outgrow people, places, versions of yourself. You are allowed to set down burdens you picked up in survival. You are allowed to say, I loved this once, but it is not mine to carry anymore. And that doesn't make you cold. It makes you free. But freedom isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just a quiet sigh in the dark, a soft unclenching of the heart. Sometimes it's crying over something one last time, not because you're weak, but because you're brave enough to say goodbye. There's a tenderness in letting go if you let yourself feel it. a kind of grace that enters through the cracks when you no longer try to hold everything together. You may find that when your hands are no longer full of what's behind you, they are finally open for what's ahead. Think of a tree in autumn. It doesn't cling to its leaves out of fear. It lets them fall, not because they were never important, but because it trusts that letting go is part of becoming. The tree does not mourn the leaves. It prepares quietly for a deeper growth. It knows there is something waiting beneath the surface, something that only emerges after the stillness of release. And maybe that's you right now. Maybe you're standing on the edge of some kind of inner autumn. Maybe something inside you is whispering that it's time to let something fall. A belief, a story, a version of you who no longer fits. And that's not a failure. That's a sacred shift. You don't need to force it. Just breathe. Feel the weight of what you're carrying. Notice what no longer feels like truth, what feels heavy, not because it's meaningful, but because it's done its part. There is no rush, just an invitation. Let go when you're ready, or simply begin by loosening your fingers. Sometimes it's enough just to whisper, I'm willing. I'm willing to trust that who I am becoming needs more space. I'm willing to believe that peace does not come from holding on, but from learning when it's time to release. And when you do, when the moment comes, whether it's quiet or trembling or even unsure, you might notice something unexpected. Lightness. A breath you didn't know you were holding finally released. A sense that you are not crumbling, but returning. You are not less without the weight. You are more yourself. This is not about turning away from the past, but about honoring it enough to let it rest. It brought you here. It shaped you. But it is not your home anymore. You don't need to camp out in the memory of pain to prove how strong you are. You're allowed to be soft now. You're allowed to be light. So if something inside you is aching tonight, if there's a tightness in your chest, if your mind keeps circling something you can't fix, hold it gently. Then ask, what if I didn't need to fix it? What if I could just let it be and let myself be? There is a version of you that exists beyond the pain, beyond the weight, beyond the identity built in defense. That version of you is not far away. It's right here, beneath the layers, behind the clenching, waiting with open arms. And maybe, as the night deepens, as sleep draws near, that part of you can begin to rise, quietly, gently, a little lighter than before. So tonight, I wish this for you. Not answers, not certainty, but space. Room to breathe, room to rest, room to release what you no longer need to carry. Let your shoulders drop. Let your heart soften. Let yourself sink into the kind of peace that doesn't come from holding on, but from trusting that it's okay to let go. And as you drift into sleep, may you feel that lightness not just in your body, but in your soul. You're not losing. You're becoming. You're returning. You're freeing yourself to feel what life is when your hands are open, your breath is slow, and your heart is finally, gently unburdened. Sleep well, dear soul. You're doing beautifully. You're still here, still breathing through the night, still letting yourself listen. And that matters more than you know. There's something tender about this moment, when the world quiets down and all that's left is you and the steady rhythm of your own heart. Maybe you're lying there now, wrapped in the hush of midnight, half asleep, but still awake enough to feel something stirring inside. A whisper, a warmth, a slow unfurling. I want to remind you of something that perhaps no one ever told you clearly enough. You are not broken. You are not a project to be fixed. You are a garden, a living, breathing garden. And you can grow again. You can heal. It's easy to forget that, isn't it? Especially when pain has lingered like a shadow too long. Especially when you've been told that you're too sensitive, too much, too fragile, or maybe just too late. But none of that is true. None of it can hold a candle to the quiet resilience blooming at the core of who you are. I don't know what's been planted in your soil over the years. Maybe grief, maybe shame, maybe doubt that took root without permission. But I know this, no matter how long winter has lasted in your life, it is not forever, because even the harshest winters end. And somewhere deep inside you, below the surface of all the thoughts, the memories, the fear, there is a seed, a tiny, trembling seed of life that has never given up on you. It waits, not for perfection, not for certainty, just for light, for breath, for the smallest sign that it's safe to try again. You don't need to fix yourself. You only need to tend to what's already there. There may be thorns. That's okay. Even roses have them. There may be dry patches, places that haven't felt love in years. But that doesn't mean they're dead. It just means they're waiting. So tonight, in this hush, let's imagine. Imagine your heart as soil, soft, dark, rich with everything you've lived through. The ache, the laughter, the longing, the losses, all of it composted into something real, something sacred. And now, in the quiet, something new begins to stir. It might be small, a feeling, a memory, a dream you buried because the world told you it didn't matter. Let it rise. Don't rush to explain it. Don't analyze it. Just feel it. Like sunlight warming your chest, like a soft breeze moving through your ribs. Something gentle is growing there. And growth, real growth, is never loud. It doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't need anyone to clap for it. It happens in the stillness. In the days you show up even when it's hard. In the nights you choose to feel instead of numb. In the seconds you choose breath over panic. In the quiet choice to be kind to yourself even when the old voice says you don't deserve it. Every time you choose softness, you water your own roots. Every time you rest when the world tells you to keep pushing, you are protecting your garden. Every time you speak gently to yourself instead of tearing yourself down, you are pulling out weeds that don't belong to you. Healing isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you've always been, beneath the noise, the pain, the masks. And who you are is not weak. Who you are is soil and sunlight and rain and wildflowers growing through the cracks. You are not defined by what hurt you. You are defined by what you do with the space that pain left behind. And I believe you are turning it into something beautiful. Maybe not all at once, maybe not loudly, but surely, quietly, like roots growing underground before anyone sees the bloom. You don't need anyone's permission to heal. You don't need the past to change. You don't need everything to make sense. You just need this moment, this breath, this night, and the willingness to whisper to yourself, even if your voice shakes, I am still growing. I am still here. I am still worthy of blooming. And you are. Even if today you only feel like a bare patch of earth, even if all you've managed is to get through the day without giving up, there is life in you. Still. There always has been. And it is patient. It is powerful. It is sacred. So let your breath be water tonight. Let your stillness be sunlight. Let your presence be the proof that even in the deepest night, a garden can begin to wake. You don't have to know what will grow. You only have to trust that something will. And maybe, as sleep gently comes, you'll begin to feel it. Not as a loud revelation, not as a grand transformation, but as a soft yes inside you. A yes to your own softness. A yes to your healing. A yes to the garden you've always been. So rest now. Lay down the weight of trying. Let the moonlight fall over the landscape of your soul, and let whatever is blooming inside you tonight know that it is safe, that it is loved, and that it is enough. Good night, dear one. May your dreams be full of wildflowers. May your heart remember its roots, and may you wake someday soon to find yourself in full bloom. Sometimes we expect awakening to arrive like thunder, like lightning across a night sky, like a voice shouting from the heavens, calling us by name, tearing away the veil in one glorious flash. We think it should be dramatic, unmistakable, something we'll recognize immediately, something that will change everything all at once. But the truth is softer, quieter. It moves like mist at dawn, not storms at sea. You may not even notice it at first. It won't announce itself with trumpets or fireworks. It won't demand that you rise and conquer or rush out into the world with answers. It will simply begin, like the slow return of warmth to cold fingers, or the gentle stirring of leaves when the wind starts to wake. Awakening isn't about noise. It's about noticing. Noticing that you pause before reacting, even if just for a second. Noticing that you speak more kindly to yourself when you make a mistake. Noticing that you feel a little less alone in your own presence. Noticing that silence no longer feels empty, but full. And sometimes you only notice in hindsight. It's like walking through a forest before sunrise. At first, everything is shadow, barely formed shapes. You walk quietly, not knowing exactly where the path is, only trusting the sound of your own breath and the soft rhythm of your footsteps. And then, without warning, you look up, and the trees are lit with gold. The light didn't burst in all at once. It crept in, slowly, lovingly. It kissed the leaves one by one until the whole forest glowed. And you realize the dawn has been arriving this whole time, even while you thought you were still lost in the dark. That's what awakening feels like. Not the sudden explosion of certainty, but the tender return of clarity. The way your chest begins to loosen after years of being tight. The way tears fall more freely, not from pain, but from permission. The way your eyes begin to see beauty again, in small things, in broken things, in yourself. You don't have to make a sound to wake up. You don't have to scream your truth. Sometimes it's enough to whisper it to yourself in the dark. I'm beginning to see. I'm beginning to feel. I'm still here. And oh, what a miracle that is. To still be here after everything, after the nights when you didn't think you would make it, after the days that blurred together with no color, no music, after the months or years where survival was the only thing you could manage, to still be breathing, to still be curious, to still want something softer, something real. That, in itself, is the quiet roar of awakening. There is a kind of strength and gentleness that the world often overlooks. But you feel it, don't you? In the way you hold space for your own sadness now, instead of pushing it away. In the way you allow joy to enter, even if just for a moment. Even if you're still afraid it won't stay. You are changing. Not becoming someone else, but returning. Returning to the parts of you that always existed underneath the fear. The part that still believes, the part that still dreams, the part that hums quietly at night when all the lights are out and the world is fast asleep. That part is ancient. It remembers who you are. You might not feel like you're doing much. You might think your quiet moments don't matter. That sitting with your feelings, breathing through your thoughts, listening to your inner voice, none of it counts. But it does. It all counts. Stillness is sacred. And within that stillness, something is always moving. You're not behind. You're not late. Awakening doesn't follow a clock. It isn't measured in milestones or applause. It unfolds when you're ready, and sometimes even before that. It leads you gently, not by force, but by love. It invites you to soften, to slow, to notice. Tonight, maybe that's all you need to do. Just notice. Notice the way your chest rises and falls. Notice the way your body, even tired, still protects you. Notice the way something in you, fragile but unbroken, is quietly reaching toward the light, like a sprout curling through soil, not knowing what waits above, only trusting that there is more. You don't need to understand everything. You don't need a plan. You just need to stay open. Even if your eyes are closed, even if you feel uncertain, even if all you can offer tonight is your quiet presence. That is enough. That is more than enough. And maybe tomorrow, you'll hear yourself laugh a little louder. Maybe the colors will feel more alive. Maybe you'll feel the sun on your face and realize it touches you differently now. Or maybe not. Maybe tomorrow will still be hard. But something in you has shifted, and it doesn't need to prove itself to be real. Awakening is not loud, but it is honest. It is soft. It is slow, and it is happening, even now, even here, even as you close your eyes and let the night hold you like an old friend. So rest, dear heart. Let your breath be the lullaby that sings your soul to peace. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not alone. You are awakening, quietly, beautifully, truly. And tomorrow will greet you gently, just as you are. There are nights when everything feels like it's working against you. You try to make sense of your life, and it feels like the more you reach, the more it slips away. You try to trust, to hope, to lean into love, and something happens. A silence, a goodbye, a weight, and it tightens around your chest like you were wrong to believe in the first place. It's easy, in moments like these, to think the universe has turned its face from you, that you've been left behind, that maybe you weren't chosen for peace after all. But let me tell you something now. In this quiet hour, under the hush of soft breathing and dim stars peeking through your window, the universe is not against you. It never was. I know that may be hard to accept, especially if your heart is tired, especially if your past is filled with detours and closed doors. But what if those detours were not blockages, but invitations? What if the no's were not rejections, but gentle redirections? What if everything, every twist, every pause, every ache, was part of a language you haven't fully learned to read yet? Because the universe doesn't speak in straight lines. It speaks in seasons, in synchronicities, in soft nudges and sudden stillness. It speaks through the book you found when you weren't looking, through the stranger's smile that felt oddly familiar, through the delay that saved you from something you'll never know. It speaks always in the quiet beneath your expectations. And maybe, just maybe, that's where you're starting to hear it now. When we think life is punishing us, we brace ourselves. We build armor. We close doors inside our own chest, fearing what else could be taken. But the universe has no interest in punishing you. It's not here to break you for sport. It's here to guide you, sometimes gently, sometimes through the very breaking you're afraid of, toward something deeper, toward truth, toward alignment, toward yourself. You see, the universe doesn't need you to be perfect. It doesn't demand constant positivity or flawless choices. It doesn't keep score the way people sometimes do. What it craves is your presence, your willingness to feel, your courage to stay open when it would be easier to shut down. Because when you're open, you begin to notice. And when you notice, you begin to understand. And that's when the magic begins. Not the kind of magic that glitters on the outside, though yes, the stars still shine and yes, the moon still listens, but the kind that stirs within you. The magic of being in harmony with something larger than your fear. The magic of saying, I don't know why this is happening yet, but I trust it's not the end of my story. Sometimes the universe withholds what you want because it's giving you what you need. And sometimes it gives you silence so that you'll finally hear your own voice. That small, trembling voice that's been there all along asking softly, can you hear me now? And when you finally say yes, everything changes. You begin to move differently. You stop chasing things that run. You stop begging for clarity in places that only offer confusion. You start to walk as if the path is under your feet, even if you can't see it yet. Because something in you knows now, you are not being punished. You are being prepared. Prepared for the version of yourself who can hold what you asked for. Prepared for the love that won't ask you to shrink. Prepared for the peace that isn't borrowed from someone else's validation. And yes, sometimes preparation looks like pain, like grief, like stillness. But it's sacred work. It's soil softening work. It's the kind of transformation that doesn't announce itself with fanfare, but leaves you blooming without even realizing you were growing. So if you're lying there tonight wondering why things haven't worked out, wondering why the road curved when you needed it straight, wondering if the universe sees you at all, know this, it does. It has always seen you, even when you felt invisible, even when you doubted your worth, even when you mistook its silence for absence. It was never gone. It was simply waiting. Waiting for you to look beyond the surface, waiting for you to stop running long enough to hear, waiting for you to understand that everything, yes, everything is part of your becoming. You are not lost. You are learning. You are not cursed. You are clearing. You are not abandoned. You are aligning. And the moment you begin to believe this, even a little, the sky shifts. The edges soften. The ache inside your chest becomes a doorway instead of a wall. And you begin to see the world not as a battlefield, but as a canvas. One painted in shadows and light, in sorrow and grace, in questions and the quiet courage it takes to live into the answers. The universe isn't against you, dear soul. It's waiting for you to trust it. To meet it halfway. To say, with your hands open and your heart unsure, I'm ready to listen. And in that listening, you'll begin to understand things you never could when you were only pushing, only chasing, only surviving. You'll begin to feel held, even when things are unclear, even when the road is winding, even when your eyes are heavy with everything you've carried. So now, as the night deepens and the stillness wraps around you like a soft blanket, may you exhale a little more easily. May you whisper into the dark, not with fear, but with faith. I'm learning to trust the universe and myself. And let that be enough for tonight. Because even now, in this quiet moment, you are being guided. You are being loved. You are exactly where you are meant to be. And the stars? They are not watching from afar. They are winking gently in your direction, saying softly, we've been here all along. There's something tender about the way dust gathers. It doesn't crash into the room or announce its arrival. It just settles, slowly, invisibly, like time itself exhaling over everything we forget to look at closely. A shelf, a corner, a photograph once cherished, but now half covered in gray. And without noticing, the shine of things fades. Not gone, just hidden, waiting. You too have gathered dust. Not because you are broken, not because you failed, but because life has a way of dimming the parts of us that used to glow. Responsibilities stack, expectations press, wounds bruise, then quietly harden. And somewhere in the swirl of ordinary days, you start believing the lie that your magic has disappeared. But let me remind you tonight, in the stillness of this shared quiet, you are not the dust. You are the light beneath it. And I promise you, it's still there. You haven't lost it. Maybe you've stopped feeling it. Maybe others stopped reflecting it back to you. Maybe you've spent too long trying to be what everyone else needed and forgot the shape of your own radiance. But even when forgotten, light doesn't cease to exist. It just waits. Patiently, kindly, like the morning sun behind a heavy curtain, waiting for the moment you're ready to pull it back. Sometimes we get so caught up in being functional, in surviving the days and fulfilling the roles, that we lose sight of the soul that's quietly whispering beneath all of it. That soft, luminous place inside you that doesn't need praise to shine or perfection to be worthy. It's the part of you that still feels wonder at a song you've heard 100 times. That cries over a line in a book because it knew you before you did. That still remembers the dream you tucked away for someday. That's the light I'm talking about, and it's yours. You don't need to fight for it, prove it, earn it. You just need to remember, to pause, to brush off the dust, gently, with the hands of someone who is learning to love themselves again. It doesn't take a grand awakening. It takes a breath, a choice, a moment where you say, I miss me. And slowly, the layers begin to lift. Maybe it starts when you laugh a little more easily, not because everything is fine, but because something inside you still wants to taste joy. Maybe it shows up when you let yourself rest, truly rest, without guilt. Or when you look in the mirror and stop focusing on what you wish to fix, and instead greet the eyes looking back at you with quiet compassion. That light, it responds to love. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the soft, steady kind. The kind you offer yourself when no one's watching. The kind that chooses gentleness over judgment. That says, even if I don't feel radiant right now, I know I'm still whole. I know there have been moments when you doubted this, when life piled too many heavy things on your shoulders, when someone's words carved into your confidence and left a scar, when the world felt too fast, too demanding, and you forgot how to simply be. But I want you to know that didn't make your light go out. It only made you forget where to look. The truth is, you've always been more than your to-do lists, more than your mistakes, more than what others have named you. You've always carried something sacred, something no one can take, a softness, a spark, a way of seeing the world that is entirely your own. And that matters. It matters more than the version of yourself you show the world, more than what you've achieved or not yet done. It matters because it's you, the you that still watches the clouds and wonders, the you that cares deeply, even if you don't always know how to show it, the you that wants to be held, not because you're weak, but because even strong hearts get tired sometimes. So tonight, as the world quiets and you finally find space to hear your own thoughts, I invite you to do something tender. Close your eyes, not to escape, but to return, to turn inward, not to judge, not to fix, but to remember, to feel that gentle hum beneath your skin, that quiet knowing, that truth that says, I'm still here, I never left. Breathe there for a while, not for answers, not for productivity, just for presence, for softness, for the sheer beauty of reconnecting with what is already yours. And maybe tomorrow, when the sun filters in through the blinds and the dust catches the light just right, you'll smile. Not because everything has changed, but because you have. Because now you remember that you are more than the layers the world has placed upon you. You are the light beneath them. And little by little, you're learning to let it shine again. You're not becoming someone new. You're returning to someone true. And that, my dear, is the most beautiful journey of all. It's a hard thing to believe sometimes, isn't it? That the very thing that cracked you open might have also been the thing that began to free you. Pain doesn't come with kindness in its hands. It arrives unannounced, disruptive, wearing the face of loss or betrayal or sudden change. It shakes the ground you thought was steady. It takes what you didn't think you could live without. And in the beginning, It only feels like breaking, like something precious has been stolen, like life is playing some cruel trick and you're the punchline. But stay with me here, in the hush of this night. Stay with your breath. Let it settle into your chest. Let the memory of the wound rise gently, not to hurt you again, but to be seen with new eyes, softer ones, wiser ones. Because maybe, just maybe, it wasn't meant to punish you. Maybe it was meant to guide you, to nudge you gently or forcefully back toward what was real. I know it doesn't feel like that at first. When your heart is aching, all you can see is the fracture, the emptiness, the confusion. You ask the same quiet question over and over again. Why? And often there's no answer loud enough to ease the ache. But over time, if you're willing to stay open, even just a crack, something begins to shift. You notice you're a little braver than before, a little less afraid to be honest, even when your voice trembles, a little more aware of what matters and what never really did. And slowly, almost secretly, pain becomes a kind of teacher. Not the gentle kind, not the one who offers praise and warm encouragement. No, this teacher is stern, but fair. It holds up a mirror, sometimes harshly, and asks, are you living the way you want to live? Are you loving the way you long to love? Are you honoring what is true for you? And if the answer is no, then it will not let you go back to sleep. There's something strangely sacred about that, about how the hardest things in our lives often become the most defining, how the very events that felt like endings were, in truth, doorways, thresholds, invitations to meet ourselves more honestly. I think about all the nights you might have cried quietly into your pillow, believing the storm was too much. And yet here you are. You're still breathing, still growing, still searching for meaning in the silence. That means something. It means that inside of you, there's a resilience the world couldn't crush, a strength not built from walls, but from softness that refuses to harden. And maybe it took 1,000 tiny heartbreaks to teach you how to carry your own heart more gently. The truth is, we all carry scars, but scars are not signs of defeat. They're reminders that we survived, that we passed through fire and emerged, maybe different, maybe tender, but not destroyed. And somewhere along the way, we start to understand that not everything is meant to be easy. Some paths are crooked because they are leading us toward a new kind of wisdom. Some people leave because their chapter in our story was complete. Some dreams don't unfold because we were meant to grow something deeper instead. Not everything that falls apart is a tragedy. Sometimes it's an act of grace, an unraveling that makes space for what your soul truly needs. So if you're sitting here tonight, heart heavy with questions, wondering why life took that turn, why that person said goodbye, why the thing you wanted didn't stay, I'm not here to give you neat answers, but I am here to remind you that it's not meaningless. Life doesn't waste pain. It shapes you with it. It softens you in all the right places. It teaches you how to forgive, how to let go, how to begin again with eyes a little clearer and love a little deeper. And yes, it hurts. Growth always does in its early stages, like bones stretching, like wings forming beneath your skin. But you're not alone in it. You are becoming. And the world, in its strange and silent way, is always whispering to you, not to break your spirit, but to reveal it. So the next time something falls away, instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try asking, what is this trying to teach me? The answer might not come right away, but one day when the dust has settled and the ache has softened, you'll look back and see it. The lesson hiding beneath the sorrow, the beauty growing in the ruins. The new you that rose from the ashes of the old. And you'll know, deep in your bones, that nothing was ever wasted, not even the pain, especially not the pain. It was always leading you home. There's something quiet inside you that has always known. Not loud, not insistent, just there, waiting. Like the soft hum beneath a song, like the way the stars are always in the sky, even when the clouds hide them. That something doesn't shout, it doesn't argue, it never forces you. It only waits for the moment you're still enough to hear. Have you felt it? That sudden knowing that blooms in your chest before your mind catches up. That sense that something is right or not, without needing facts, without needing proof. It's not logic, not memory, not fear. It's older than all of those. Softer too. It's your intuition, that quiet thread of truth that has lived in you since the beginning, like a silver string connected to something far greater than yourself. Some call it instinct, some call it soul, but names don't really matter. What matters is that you felt it, you've heard it, even if only in passing. Maybe you've ignored it before. We all have. There are moments when we talk ourselves out of it, when we choose the more reasonable thing, the more familiar path, even if it tightens something in our chest. Sometimes we dismiss that inner voice because it doesn't come wrapped in certainty, because it can't be explained in neat sentences or backed by evidence. And so we walk forward with our minds full of doubt and our hearts quietly whispering, "But you knew." And it's okay. Truly it is. Learning to listen again takes time. It takes trust. And trust is hard when the world has taught us to question everything we feel, to put numbers and noise above quiet nudges of the heart. But no matter how long it's been, that voice inside you hasn't left. It doesn't hold a grudge. It waits, like a lighthouse on a foggy night, unwavering, steady. You see, the universe doesn't speak in commands. It speaks in invitations, a stirring, a tug, a whisper that says, "This way." Not because that way is the easiest or the most praised, but because it's yours. Because it will take you deeper into who you truly are. You've probably noticed it most when you've stepped away from the noise. In those rare quiet moments when the phone is down and the world stops demanding so much. Maybe you felt it during a walk alone, or while lying awake at night when your thoughts are finally too tired to argue. Or maybe it came to you in a dream, as symbols and feelings you couldn't fully explain but knew were real. That is your intuition gently reaching through the veil. Not to control your choices, but to remind you that you're not wandering blindly, that something inside you already remembers the way. Sometimes, it feels like a soft warmth spreading through your chest when you think about a certain decision. Other times, it feels like a subtle discomfort when you're veering off course. It doesn't always feel dramatic or magical. Often it's so quiet you almost miss it. But if you pause, if you ask, if you listen, it answers. And it always answers with love. That's the part that still brings me awe. How loving it is. How patient. Even when you don't follow it. Even when you doubt it. It never says, "I told you so." It only keeps pointing you gently back toward yourself. I think the universe has always worked this way. Not as a strict parent or distant force, but as a quiet presence inside all things. A presence that nudges you toward the kind of life that is truer, fuller, not without pain, but with purpose. It's in the way you feel when you're doing something that lights you up from the inside. It's in the way you feel when something drains the light out of you. You don't need a spreadsheet to tell you what your soul already knows. And the more you listen, the clearer it becomes. Not louder, but clearer. Like tuning an old radio, like cleaning a dusty window, like waking from a long dream and realizing you knew you were dreaming all along. Some people call this spiritual, others call it wisdom. Again, words don't matter. What matters is that this voice is real, and it belongs to you. Always has. You don't have to go looking for it in faraway places. You don't have to climb mountains or chant under moonlight, unless that's what stirs your soul. The truth is, your intuition is in the way you sigh when something finally feels right. In the way your body leans slightly forward when something excites you. In the way your chest tightens when something doesn't sit quite right, even if you can't say why. That is your compass. That is the language of your inner knowing. And yes, it takes practice to hear it again. Especially if you've spent years ignoring it, or if the world around you taught you not to trust yourself. But every time you pause and ask, "How does this feel, truly?" you are building a bridge back to it. Every time you honor that feeling, even in small ways, you are saying, "I trust me again." And that's where life begins to shift. Not in loud, sudden explosions, but in subtle realignments, in soft yeses, in quiet no's, in choosing peace even when it disappoints others, in walking away from what no longer fits, in choosing what brings you home. So tonight, as the world slows down and your breath becomes steady, I invite you to place a hand over your heart and simply listen. No questions, no demands, just a quiet listening. See if there's something whispering beneath all the noise, something gentle, something kind. That's you, the deepest you. And that's the universe, speaking in the only language it's ever needed, love. Let it guide you. Let it surprise you. Let it remind you of the path you've always known, even when you forgot. You are not lost. You are not late. You are only learning how to hear again. And your heart, your beautiful, steady heart, has known the way all along. There are things we carry long after they've ended, moments that passed but stayed, words that were said in anger or fear, yet echo years later, faces we haven't seen in so long, but still visit us at the edge of sleep. Regrets like loose threads that keep catching on the corners of our days. Pain tucked neatly in the corners of our heart, trying to be quiet, but never really leaving. You know the kind, I mean. The kind you try not to think about during the day, but that finds you in the soft, quiet hours of night, when everything else fades. The memories you pretend don't matter anymore. But they do. They still hum under the surface. And no matter how much time passes, something inside still holds on. Maybe it's anger, maybe disappointment, maybe guilt, maybe the ache of having been hurt or the ache of having hurt someone else. And we tell ourselves we've moved on, that we've let it go, that we've grown past it. But some part of us still flinches when a name is mentioned, or a certain date comes around, or a memory finds its way back without asking. Forgiveness, people say. As if it's simple. But it's not, is it? It's one of the most tender, most complicated things we'll ever be asked to do. Not because it requires forgetting, not at all. And not because it means pretending nothing happened. No, forgiveness isn't about erasing, it's about releasing. It's about softening the grip we've kept so tight for so long that it's left marks on our own hands. Because when we don't forgive, we don't freeze time. We carry it. We carry the person, the wound, the moment. We replay it, reshape it, relive it in small ways. And it becomes heavy. So very heavy. But here's what I've come to learn. Forgiveness is not something we give them. It's something we give ourselves. We forgive because we are tired of the weight, because we deserve to be free again, because our hearts were not made to be locked in old cages, replaying pain like a loop that never ends. Forgiveness is not approval. It's not denial. It's choosing, for our own peace, to stop drinking the poison of what already hurt us once. Choosing to not let it hurt us again and again through memory, through bitterness, through walls we build that only keep out the light. And I know how hard it can be, especially when the wound runs deep. When the apology never came, when the damage still lingers in quiet parts of your life, when the betrayal felt like a shattering that left pieces you're still gathering. Some pain feels so personal, so unjust, that forgiveness feels like surrendering truth. But it's not. You can hold the truth and still forgive. In fact, real forgiveness comes from looking directly at what happened and gently saying, I won't carry this anymore, because you deserve to be whole again. You deserve mornings that aren't stained with old shadows. You deserve to laugh without guilt, to breathe without tightness, to walk forward without dragging chains you no longer need. You are not what was done to you. And you are not every mistake you've made. You are something far larger, far softer, far more beautiful than the worst thing that ever happened to you, or the worst choice you ever made. Sometimes, the hardest person to forgive is ourselves. We replay the moments we should have known better, said less, said more, stayed, left. We hold our younger selves to standards our present selves now understand more fully. We forget how scared we were then, how lost, how much we were just trying to survive with the tools we had. But can I tell you something? You were always trying, even in your mess, even in your silence, even in your mistakes. And that version of you, the one you judge so harshly, deserves your compassion more than anyone else. They didn't need punishment. They needed love. They still do. Forgiveness is returning to that inner self and saying, I see you. I know you tried. I'm sorry for how long I blamed you. You don't need to carry this anymore. Let's come home. It may not happen in one moment. It may come in layers. Some days, it might feel like progress. Other days, like you're back at the beginning. That's okay. Healing doesn't move in straight lines. It moves in circles and spirals and gentle returns. But each time you soften, each time you breathe through the tightness, each time you choose compassion instead of judgment, that is forgiveness. And it's the bravest kind. Because it asks you to feel, to be tender with the sore places, to not run from the hurt, but to cradle it gently, saying, you don't have to hurt alone anymore. Run. Tonight, if there's someone whose memory stings, if there's a version of yourself you still turn away from, try placing a hand over your heart. Not to fix, not to force, just to offer presence. Just to say, I'm still here and I want to be free. You don't have to rush. Forgiveness is not a race. It's a quiet unfolding, like petals after a long winter. And when it comes, even just a little, it feels like light in a room you forgot had windows. It feels like your own name spoken without shame. It feels like peace. Gentle, undramatic, but true. You don't need permission. You don't need to be told it's okay. You already know. Deep down, you already know that you're allowed to be free. Allowed to stop guarding the wound. Allowed to choose joy again. So as the night wraps around us like a soft blanket, and the world gets quiet enough for truth to rise, remember this. Forgiveness isn't letting them off the hook. It's letting you off the hook. It's stepping out of the story that kept you in pain. It's saying, I choose to live. And oh, what a beautiful life it can be when you're no longer bound by what you once couldn't let go. Let this be the beginning. Not for them, for you. Some nights there's a quiet ache that drifts in without warning. It's not sharp, not loud. Just a soft hum under your skin, a sense of not quite belonging. A feeling that maybe you're somehow behind, somehow missing something essential that everyone else seems to have figured out. Like everyone got a map, and yours was never handed to you. You might look at the world and feel like a puzzle piece that doesn't quite fit. No matter how hard you try to smooth your edges or match the shapes around you, something feels off, misaligned. As if there's some invisible pattern you were supposed to conform to, but your soul has always whispered a different melody. It's a lonely kind of feeling, isn't it? To sit in a room full of people and still feel a flicker of isolation. To walk through the motions of a life that looks right but feels distant, like a costume you wear but never quite inhabit. And maybe you've spent years trying to fix that. To find the place you belong. To make yourself smaller or louder or kinder or tougher. Whatever the world asked of you, just to feel like you made sense. Just to feel like you were part of something greater than yourself, and not some strange outlier orbiting alone. But what if I told you, you were never meant to fit? What if you were never meant to be a copy, or a match, or a replica? What if this ache, the one that tugs at you in quiet moments, is not the cry of a broken piece, but the stirring of something ancient inside you, awakening? You see, you're not a fragment seeking completion. You're not a jigsaw shape waiting for your slot. You are already whole, already vast, already enough. You are not missing pieces. You are remembering pieces. It's not that you don't belong. It's that you came here to remember you always have. This world teaches us to look outward, to measure ourselves against others, to believe we must earn our place by becoming better, smarter, prettier, more successful. And in that rush, we forget. We forget the quiet truth that lived in us before we ever spoke a word. That we are made of something ancient and wild and luminous. That we are not becoming, we are uncovering. We are peeling back the layers of noise and fear and expectation to rediscover what has always been true. You are not a mistake. You are not here by accident. You are not too much. You are not too soft. You are not broken. You are a whole being made of stardust and spirit who simply forgot for a while just how much light you hold. And now you're remembering. Slowly. Softly, in the way that dawn tiptoes into the sky, not with a roar, but with a gentle brush of light that shifts everything without asking permission. You are waking up to yourself. And it might not look dramatic. It might not come with a sign or a moment that tells you it's all changed. Sometimes it looks like crying for no reason, or suddenly feeling tired of pretending, or no longer laughing at what doesn't feel funny. Sometimes it's the quiet refusal to keep shrinking, or the unexpected urge to be alone, or the strange pull towards silence, nature, music, the stars, things that speak in a language deeper than words. You are not drifting, you are returning. And yes, some days it will still feel messy. Some days the loneliness will whisper again, telling you you're not enough, that you've missed your path, that everyone else is ahead of you. But let me tell you something real, something deep. There is no race, no timeline, no correct sequence of steps. Your journey is yours. beautiful in its twists, sacred in its timing. Even when it feels like nothing's happening, something always is. Even when you feel lost, you're being led. Even when everything is silent, your soul is speaking. So tonight, if you feel like a misfit, if you feel like you're floating somewhere between who you were and who you're becoming, let yourself rest in this truth. You are not a puzzle piece. You are not meant to snap into place. You are a galaxy remembering itself. You are a breath of the universe in human form, unfolding, shedding, awakening. And every time you choose to trust the quiet wisdom inside you, every time you say no to what dims your light and yes to what stirs your soul, you are returning to the truth of who you've always been. Not broken, not behind, not lost, but remembering. And my dear, that remembering is everything. It's the call home. It's the unraveling of illusions. It's the soft and steady blooming of your essence. So let the world move at its pace. Let others find their paths. Let the noise of expectations pass like wind through trees. You, just keep turning inward. Keep listening. Keep following the tug of what feels true, even when it makes no sense to anyone else. The real you is not waiting out there. It's been inside you all along. And it's so good to see you again. There's a moment, often in the quiet between thoughts, when something soft within you sighs. Not from exhaustion, not from defeat, but from recognition. Like a long-lost part of you has finally been heard, even if only faintly. It's not always loud, not always clear, but it's there. A shimmer in the dark, a flicker in the fog, the beginning of a homecoming. The journey back to yourself does not begin with fireworks. It begins with the tiniest of whispers, a question you dare to ask beneath all the noise. Who was I before the world told me who to be? And when you ask that question, even silently, the universe listens. And more importantly, you listen. Somewhere beneath all the layers of doing and proving and pretending, your soul leans in. It remembers. It has always remembered. You see, you didn't lose yourself. You just wandered. Like a traveler who strayed a little too far from the map, dazzled by distractions, wrapped in obligations, pulled by currents not entirely your own. And in that wandering, you learned, you hurt, you tried, you grew. That too was part of it. Not a detour, but a path. But now, something within you is stirring. A softness that no longer wants to chase. A clarity that no longer needs to explain itself. A yearning not to become someone new, but to return to someone ancient, someone quietly alive within you all along. And so the journey begins. Not out there, but inward. Not toward achievement, but toward alignment. It begins in stillness, in honesty, in those strange little moments when you no longer pretend to enjoy what drains you or stay quiet about what matters to you. It begins when you stop apologizing for being tender or different or deep. When you let the mask slip, even just for yourself, and admit, I miss me. Coming home to yourself is not a linear path. It doesn't happen in perfect steps or grand awakenings. Sometimes it happens in the middle of the night when you can't sleep, and your mind circles back to the version of you that used to laugh without measuring your worth. Sometimes it happens when you walk away from something that once felt necessary and realize you're lighter now, more whole, less afraid. Other times, it feels like falling apart, like shedding a skin that no longer fits, like standing barefoot in a storm, watching pieces of your old self drift away. You might not recognize yourself for a while. That's okay. Becoming reacquainted with your truth means unlearning who you pretended to be. And sometimes that unlearning feels like loss before it feels like liberation. But oh, how worth it is. Because what waits for you on the other side is not just peace, it's intimacy with yourself, with the world, with life. You begin to notice things again. The way the sunlight touches the edge of your teacup, the sound of your own breath when everything else is still, the pulse of aliveness that returns when you speak your truth, even shakily. You feel more here, more rooted, less afraid of silence, less tempted by noise, and slowly you become your own safe place. You stop needing others to fill your emptiness because you begin to tend to it yourself, with gentleness, with compassion, with presence. You stop begging the world for permission to be who you are because you remember you never needed permission. You were always enough, always worthy, always whole. Yes, the journey is quiet. Yes, it's deeply personal, but it's also sacred. It is you, meeting your own gaze in the mirror with something other than criticism. It is you holding your own heart when no one else knows how. It is you returning to your body, your rhythm, your truth, no longer a stranger to your own soul. And in this return, something else happens. The world begins to feel different, not because it has changed, but because you have. You see more clearly, you choose more gently, you love more bravely, you begin to move not out of fear, but out of knowing. You begin to speak not to impress, but to connect. You begin to live not to survive, but to be. And isn't that what you were always meant for? Not perfection, not performance, but presence. To sit inside your own skin and feel like you belong there. To exist without explanation. To love without condition. To breathe without burden. So tonight, if you feel far from yourself, if you feel like your truth has been buried under years of trying, know this. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are simply remembering the way home. And every step you take, no matter how small, is sacred. So let yourself rest. Let yourself soften. Let the unraveling be gentle. Because what you're walking toward is you. And you, dear soul, are worth the journey. As you sit here now, with the hush of the night gently wrapping around you, know this, your journey of inner awakening is not ending. It's only just beginning. Every breath you take with more awareness, every moment you choose gentleness over judgment, every time you pause to listen to the quiet within, you are returning home, to yourself, to the light that was never lost, only waiting. So carry this stillness into your dreams. Let it cradle you like soft waves under a moonlit sky. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be, even if you can't see the whole path yet. The next step will reveal itself when your heart is ready. And when you wake, let the journey continue, with kindness, with courage, with curiosity. The universe is still whispering, and you, dear soul, are learning to listen. Sleep peacefully tonight. You are safe, you are growing, you are already becoming. Good night, gentle traveler. We'll walk the next part of the path together soon.